weekly breakdown of every NASCAR Cup Series race. Here are your hosts, Kevin Bettstone, NASCAR Sky, and Jeff Davis.
Welcome back, race fans, to another episode of Mash the Gas podcast. I'm NASCAR Sky. Joining me shortly, Kevin and Jeff. We're here to talk about the Brickyard 400 and Bubba Wallace breaking his 100-race winless streak. Then we're going to get into the Iowa Corn 350. But before we do any of that, Kevin, I got to ask, who mashed the gas the hardest?
Well, we've been talking about 23XI. When are these guys finally going to turn it around with all the noise in the background and all the litigation? Bubba Wallace went out there, led 30 laps, was able to hold off Kyle Larson. Emotional win for him. Gets the crown jewel. Gets it done out there at the Brickyard, Jeff.
Yeah, it was really cool to see him get back out there in victory lane. It's been literally almost exactly 3 years since he's won his last race. You know, he broke that 100 dry spell that he had. So it was really cool to see him back in there. So, you know, congratulations to Bubba Wallace. You know, it was a decent race. He was third most laps. You know, he ran 30 laps in the lead position. But I also want to give a shout out to Austin Cindric, you know, leading 40 laps more than anybody else. Because when you go back and look at it, even though he didn't have the best finish, Austin Cindric led the most laps in a Penske car since Rusty Wallace did 25 years ago, you know, in the year 2000. So I thought that was kind of cool on his part. Like I said, even though, you know, he didn't finish quite where he wanted, Penske did pretty good for this race.
Yeah, it was a tough day for him and Logano, blowing those tires there while in the lead. I think ultimately Logano probably, I mean, this is rich coming from a Logano fan, but he probably had it in the bag if he didn't blow that tire. But yeah, Bubba, I think if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time that he's won a regular season race to lock himself into the playoffs. So that, I mean, that's just huge in and of itself. There's no controversy with this win. You know, he saved the gas, he outlasted all of the pace laps and everything, and he held off Kyle Larson 2 times, cleanly passed him. I mean, he just straight up outran him on the restarts. I just thought it was a really, really good race, not just from Bubba Wallace, but that entire 23 team.
Yeah, I mean, great day all around. He had to go out there and earn it. It wasn't a rain-shortened deal. It wasn't anything like that. He had to drive the wheels off that thing. And with Kyle Larson, that was my pick to win this race last week, right on his tail. I think those guys did a great job. And yeah, you mentioned, you know, the regular season win. You go back and look at his win at Kansas a couple of years ago. And then prior to that, he won Talladega, rain-shortened Talladega. That was also in the playoffs. So, you know, I think just good momentum for those guys, good for 23XI, you know, with this open team deal. I did, you know, read that the purse is not distributed to the full amount because it's considered an open team entry right now. So there's going to be some interesting kind of breakdown of how the payout structure looks from NASCAR during this litigation process, but doesn't matter because he's locked into the playoffs now with 4 races to go. Only 3 spots remain, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested to see if we will actually get to be told what the actual payout was for Bubba Wallace on this race, because the purse for the Brickyard 400 this year was just a little bit over $11 million. And usually if you're not a chartered team, your payout from NASCAR is about 30% less than a chartered team. So that could be a substantial amount of money to him. But I mean, it is cool that, you know, yeah, he got in the playoffs. He's actually got some decent points. You know, he has nothing to worry about right now, sitting in, let's see here, P9 in the playoff standings. So, you know, he can kind of wipe a little sweat off of his brow and come to these last few races and just, you know, run, not worry about having to, you know, wreck or anything like that and just push it to the limits. So, yeah, good thing for 2311. We did see Denny Hamlin extended his contract for a multi-year deal. So to me, that tells me he is definitely going to be beating Kevin Harvick, you know, with those 60 wins. He wants to be putting Harvick, I think, in that 11th spot for all-time wins because he's only got 2 wins to go. And I think he could do that this year alone. So if he's signing a multi-year contract, I think we'll definitely see him beat Kevin Harvick and maybe even Kyle Busch with the 63 wins he's got. What do you think?
I think so. And I think it was good that he did a 2-year deal. You know, I heard him talk about a little bit earlier about how, you know, it's just tough when you get to this age to sign multi-year contracts. You know, he wants to reevaluate where he's going to be in 2 years. He'll be approaching 46 years of age at that time. And, you know, 2311 continues to develop into a championship caliber team. So he might have to turn his attention more into an ownership role at that point. But, you know, look, Denny's proven that he is still racing competitively at a high level. I mean, he's got 4 wins on the season, 58 overall, came from the back, completely wrecked in qualifying, backed the thing into the fence, overdrove turn 3 there. and was able to get a top 3 finish out of it and remain in the hunt for the regular season championship. If he can get through Watkins Glen clean, he's still going to be in this conversation for the regular season champ. So good news there for Denny. And it was just really cool to see everyone in the garage area, the respect that they have for Bubba. Everyone kind of came out and gave him some love, and he's an emotional guy. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and that's who he's always been. And NASCAR is built around personality and characters, and Bubba's definitely one of them. And he brings a big fan base to the sport, with Michael Jordan and just everyone involved over there. So pretty cool day to be able to add that crown jewel. We know Denny was chasing that. It's the only one that he doesn't have, but he's got 2 more shots to get it, Sky.
Yeah, definitely. Bubba, just when I seen all the drivers, why they were so on track, going up and bumping Bubba's car and putting their hands out the window. You don't always see that much anymore. I don't know. I feel like I seen it way more back when I was younger watching. To me, that was just really special, and it just shows that he gets a lot of hate, a lot of noise, just for being himself, and it shows that at least the garage really respects him, and I think that means a whole lot. And yeah, I know we kind of jumped off Hamlin, but I agree. I think Hamlin is definitely going to probably surpass Kyle Busch. It also depends on Kyle Busch in general. I mean, RCR wasn't too bad, but I feel like there's just so much that they have to clean up and work together and just putting a full race together. But Kyle Busch, I mean, he's on that cut line bubble. He's 18th right now. I don't know what we're going to see these next few races, if we're going to see another win or not. I mean, I didn't have money on Bubba, and look where, I mean, he locked himself in, so anything can really happen. I did also want to say, I thought it was pretty funny. I'm sorry, I kind of went on a tangent here, but Denny won, and then Bubba won right after, 23-11, and Front Row lost their charter. So I think that's a pretty big, stick up to NASCAR.
It is, and it's cool, like you said, that everyone's kind of giving them props, giving them a little bit of bumps there and there, and giving ways out. We used to see that quite often for guys that had dry spells and stuff, so it was really cool. And even Kyle Larson after the race, he's like, hey, you ran a good race. I just didn't have enough for him. I mean, he only beat him by 0.22 of a second, so he was right on his ass for sure. But he's like, yeah, hey, he ran well. It was a good run, and he deserves it. Congratulations to him. So, yeah, good thing for Bubba. But one thing I was going to say to both of you guys, all 3 of us had Kyle Larson in our fantasy lineup.
That is true. And I had Bubba in my lineup. I definitely we didn't pick him. None of us picked him to win this race. But when I saw how well he qualified, he definitely went into my lineup. And shout out to my girlfriend. She's just fantastic. She's learning the sport, and she put down a bet on Bubba Wallace to win this race, and it hit for $150. So she's getting it. She made a great pick there. So that was kind of fun to watch unfold. But jumping back to the Penske crew a little bit, I'm curious. Do you really think that Joey had the fuel to go the distance? If that tire didn't let go, he would have had to stretch that to a range that we haven't seen before. I mean, Steve Letart's like, there's no way this 22 is going to make it. But Sky, we've seen so many times, they always say these guys are short on fuel, but they still have enough to do the burnout, make it back to victory lane. Do you really think the 22 could have gone the distance?
I think if it's any driver that can do it, it would have been Logano. I mean, when he won Nashville last year, they were low on gas and had 5, restart attempts. So I think it's really just kind of an art saving gas, and I think that Logano's just very good at it. And if it was a driver that could have done it, it would have been him.
Yeah, Kevin definitely called that out last week. This was definitely a fuel strategy race, and it truly was. I'm going to go a little bit against you, though, on Logano, just because I think that Ryan Blaney could have finished way better than he did. I mean, yeah, he finished in the top 10. He got a P7 out of it, but he also had a pit road penalty. So to have to do a drive-through at Indy, that's a long pit road to go drive through, even though, it's a big track, it's 2.5 miles. So he didn't really drop back too far, but be able to come back and get that P7. I kind of was rooting for a little bit more of, Ryan Blaney than I was for Logano. Sorry, Sky.
All in all, I thought the Fords, put up a decent performance. Obviously, Toyota takes it. That's a big win for them. But, we talked about RFK and what they were possibly going to do. Those guys are getting better. I mean, BK and Ryan Preece, both top 5s. So those guys are definitely heading the right direction. Todd Gilliland, we know we just got done talking about their charter situation. Good finishes there. Chase Elliott just really never had the speed to fire off. I mean, he started back there, near where Denny was at the tail end, and ended up P13. Chase always finds a way to at least get himself a respectable finish, but those guys just didn't have the speed. Bowman gets another top 10 there. Just a couple honorable mentions. Carson Hocevar, another top 10. Jeff, you'd mentioned Austin Cindric bringing it home, P15. But overall, Jeff, you and I were talking about this a little bit off mic in regards to the Indianapolis, market to NASCAR and what that track brings to the sport. We know how important it is on the Indy sides, the Indy 500. Roger Penske owns the place. But from a fan's perspective, I mean, those stands were pretty bare. I know it holds 330,000, so you pack 80,000 in there and it's going to look like no one's there. So we take that with a grain of salt. But over the years, from the Indy Road Course to back to the Oval to, I remember when we had tire issues here with Goodyear back in 2011. Generally speaking, Jeff, what's your thoughts on this race at the Brickyard 400 as a crown jewel?
We've been watching this for a long, long time. Sky wasn't trying to give you too much shit a minute ago. I just know you love Joey so much, so I had to give you that little dig. But no, as far as Indy, man, it's like, okay, before we went to the road course or the road race, Roval, I know that's Charlotte, what they call it there, but before we went to a road course in Indy, we had the Brickyard 400, and it's always kind of been, in my opinion, one of those kind of like a vanilla type of a race. I mean, there's some action on there. Yeah, there's some good racing that goes on there, but is it as good as something like, Chicagoland? I know there's rumors coming back right now that Chicagoland might be coming back. And Kevin, you actually called that one out a few weeks back too. You're like, you know what? Why not bring Juliet back out there? It's only about 50 miles southwest of Chicago, and throw that in there, because from what I've watched, as far as the quality of racing at that track, as much as, it, for one, I don't think it should be a crown jewel for NASCAR. It just doesn't have that, the glitter or the glam that it should have for a regular race. Now I can see that for Indy, yeah, absolutely. But as far as NASCAR calling it a crown jewel, it just isn't, in my opinion. And I think we could have other tracks come on the circuit.
Yeah, interesting perspective. Sky, your thoughts on kind of Indy as a crown jewel and just the overall quality of racing, and obviously the fans, right? I mean, the attendance just really, again, 330,000 people. I get that. You could say the same about a lot of other markets, but from a fan's perspective, do you feel like this was a good Indy race? And just overall, since 1994, since we've been going here, of course, I was a Jeff Gordon guy. He won the inaugural race and then won there 5 times. So for me, that was always kind of a big bragging point. But it just, piggybacking off Jeff's point, it does always seem to come down to the same long green flag, fuel runs, tire conservation. It's almost kind of a predictable run.
Yeah, I agree. When I think of Indy, my expectations for Indy are definitely just like it's going to be a strategy race. I'm not expecting to see super crazy passing, 3 wide type, the whole run, something like maybe you would see at Atlanta or such. I kind of expect it to be, like Jeff said, kind of vanilla. It kind of really comes down to just, I think, not just the driver, but a lot of behind the scenes, a lot of, strategy, like I already said. I'm not really, and I'm kind of indifferent if I think it should be the road course or the oval. I mean, the oval is, I guess, more nostalgic, but I don't know. I kind of agree with Jeff. I don't know if I would consider it this big crown jewel thing, something like the Daytona 500, but I'm also not going to start a protest to dethrone it from the crown jewel either. So I don't know. I'd like to see it maybe go back to the road course or maybe just leave it all together, but it's tough because it is just such a nostalgic track.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting discussion, and maybe we can run a poll over on our Twitter X there and see kind of what the fans' feedback was on it. Well, because I'm kind of curious as to where everyone stands with it. I mean, it's an important market. We know how important Indianapolis Motor Speedway is to the Indy 500. I mean, that's their crown jewel. Sky, we've talked about how we don't really love the racetrack that you can probably see from your new place right up the road just because of the style of racing, but it's such an important, staple and crown jewel to our sport, the Daytona 500. I've been saying for 30 years I don't like super speedway racing, so it really just depends, and that Indy market is huge to racing in general, right? I mean, Tony Stewart and Ryan Newman and a lot of those guys were from Indiana. They were Indiana boys, and they always, Jeff Gordon, same deal. That was like kind of the home fan base, but it's just that fan base is more Indy than NASCAR, Jeff.
It is 100% more Indy, and like you say, it's tough, man, because it is an iconic track. When you think of racing, especially like someone that maybe doesn't know NASCAR, like, as well as us and a lot of our fans that listen to us, you think of Indy and it's like, yeah, it's to us, hey, it's just another race kind of. To me, it's not a crown jewel, so in my opinion. But when you talk to some of the average people that are not maybe avid fans of maybe any race form, and you say Indianapolis, 500, or, not the Brickyard 400, but the Indy 500, everyone knows Indianapolis. So it's tough because, it's like you said, Kevin, it brings a lot of people in. It really does, as far as who's been in there. It's a racing community. Like you mentioned, the seat capacity there is over 250,000, man, 300,000 people. And then you look at where we're going to next week. We're going to Iowa, where the capacity is only 30,000. So to sell out 30,000, I mean, heck, that's not too much bigger than most basketball arenas. You know what I mean? So I know it did look kind of sparse out there, but that's just kind of how it goes when you have that many seats in the stands.
I agree. I think a lot of fans need to take that into consideration because I did see some discourse on social media about how empty it looked, but it's just, it's going to be so hard to fill that. I mean, how many fans was it? I don't know. I didn't see how many were in attendance. I think I read somewhere it was like 70,000 or something. I don't want to say for sure. I know Kevin and Jeff will probably help me out there, but that's still a lot. I mean, I don't know how much like you said, 30,000 for Iowa. I mean, that's double Iowa. So I think it is a big market. And I do think that a lot of people, maybe if they're not big NASCAR fans, but they live in Indy, it might be something that they're like, hey, this is going on this weekend. We might as well just go because it's in town. So it might be beneficial to keep it on the schedule.
Yeah, it just has a lot of history, right? I mean, walking through Gasoline Alley, you always hear every driver get goosebumps when you go through there. And I think that aspect is why we keep it as a crown jewel, just the history that has taken place. You think about the greats, AJ Foyt and a lot of others that have raced there, make it so special. And, it's a very unique racetrack. Kissing the bricks, that's a tradition now. We don't do that anywhere else. Wouldn't name another NASCAR race where they're kissing the start finish line. So there's some uniqueness to it. I'm fine with keeping it on the schedule. I don't think we need to get rid of Indy as a whole. And Bubba won it fair and square, so you can't take his name off the trophy there, Jeff.
Yeah, who was it that got some shit about doing a burnout on the actual bricks? Was that Larson last year that got shit for doing a burnout?
Larson won the race last year and did, yes, that was correct.
Yeah, I know he won it, but I couldn't remember if it was him that actually did the burnout on the bricks, and he got a little bit of heat about it. But it is such an iconic track. I mean, personally, I've never been there. Do I want to go? Hell yeah, I definitely want to go out and check out that track. Like both of you guys mentioned, and I agree. There's just so much history there that it's a great place to go. So we'll just have to see what they do with it. If attendance kind of does stay low, but like Sky mentioned, looking at Iowa, 30,000 people, and just a little over double that is what they had, probably around 70, 75, 80,000. It's hard when you have that many stands. It's going to look empty, and it honestly always has. That track always looks pretty vacant, and it's because of the seating capacity. I mean, we're talking like 4 or 5 football stadiums worth of capacity. That's a shit ton of people.
Yeah.
So you just can't do it. But I'm going to flip it over a little bit right now, because what I'm excited about is the news that we are going to San Diego next year for a road course instead of Chicago. I know I've voiced my opinion a little bit about that Chicago race, but we are going to the Naval Base Coronado Street Race in San Diego, where Jimmy Johnson grew up. And Johnson came out and stated this week, he's like, I'm going to run some more races next year than I have this year, especially because I want to run San Diego at the Naval Base Coronado. So hope he does. Hope he does well. Hopefully he can finish somewhere in the top 20, because we definitely haven't seen that out of old JJ. But, hey, man, the guy's like 48, 49 years old. I think he's 49. So, and as we know, Legacy's got some equipment that's just not quite up to speed as like, the Penske's, the Gibbs, the Hendricks. But to see him get out there, I think would be really special for him.
Yeah, having JJ, 7-time champ, 84 Cup wins. Anytime he runs a race, it's definitely exciting. And San Diego, we talked about it, but the fact that it's going to be on the naval base itself, I mean, I visited San Diego a couple times on vacation. It's a beautiful city. From the downtown skyline, you could look over the bay there, right over to the naval base. I'll be curious to see what they're going to do fan-wise with this, because I was talking to one of my military buddies, and he says, well, I'm ex-military, so I can get us in. And that got me thinking how they're going to do this logistically with fans. I've been to Buckley Air Force Base here in Denver, Colorado, and it's a very, very strict process to get people in and out. So I'm kind of wondering, is this like a race for military? I'm curious to see how those details come down. But regardless, super cool. NASCAR is always very patriotic. We see what we do on Memorial Day, with the Coke 600 and, the anniversary of the Navy next year and America turning 250. I think it's going to be pretty cool and unique to the sports, guy.
I agree. I'm really excited. I mean, I'm always excited for NASCAR to try something new. But yeah, you bring up a good point. It is interesting to see what they do with fans. Like maybe they set it up. And also, we don't even know what the shape of the track is yet either. I think is pretty interesting. I'm just really excited all around for it. It'd be good to, spread some love in California. We don't really get out there much besides Sonoma. We did do, the LA Coliseum, but we see how well that worked out. But yeah, I'm definitely excited. I did want to give a shout out. The in-season challenge finally ended. The Cinderella story ended with Ty Dillon. Ty Gibbs did end up winning, but I did see that he said something about donating, I think, 10,000, I think, to
Yep.
Ty Dillon's Choice of Charity, which I thought was pretty nice.
Yeah, class act. I mean, Ty Gibbs, he is, and he's going to be around a long time. He's getting better each week. Wasn't the finish he was looking for, but the fact remains, somebody had to win it, and Steve Phelps presented it to him, and he showed his respect for his competitor there with Ty Dillon, and I think just all around it was just a good momentum boost for Ty Dillon. It's not really someone we talk about a lot as a race winning caliber driver, and that's more of an equipment thing, but pretty cool that he made it all the way to the final there. But yeah, solid lad Ty Gibbs on that.
It was pretty cool. I mean, yeah, both the ties in there. I mean, it was kind of unexpected. I know all of us got our brackets busted. We got our asses kicked that very first week, which like 95% of the people that did the brackets actually did. But after seeing him win that, I was kind of thinking and laughing just a little bit. I'm like, it's kind of ironic that the $1 million went to this, I don't know, silver spoon fed drivers. Both our granddaddies are car owners, and I mean, neither one of them are running in the top 10 every week or anything like that. But I just kind of think it's like, we see so many people go up there and try to run and get into NASCAR, and it's so hard these days unless you actually already have an in, whether it's a family member or a crew member, some sort of tie to the NASCAR community. So, like William Byron, for example, love it. I love his story. He actually came from sim racing, was racing his ass off at 13 years old, just sitting there in his bedroom. Mom wouldn't let him run on that until he got his homework done. So he worked extra hard to get that shit done. And he memorized every single track. He got everything down, and he didn't come, from the grassroots like a lot of these drivers do. And look where he's at right now. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, Byron's story is definitely different, and it is awesome at how hard he worked to get there. You see the silver spoon thing. A lot of people keep saying that, and it is true ultimately because Ty Dillon is from our Richard Childress, but I feel like he's a little bit less silver spoon than Ty Gibbs because his brother is the one that has the ride. He's the one in the three, even though he's not. I feel like they're just about as good as each other. You could probably swap them in and out each week. But ultimately, it was really good of Ty Gibbs, and I like to see him grow a little bit. I mean, I've always had, I don't want to say a distaste for him, but I remember Martinsville in 2022, I think, when he wrecked his teammate who needed to win into the playoffs. Like, I don't know, that put a bad taste in my mouth. So hopefully, but he was young, he's growing, he's doing way better this year, especially the second half of the year. So we'll have to see how it ends up for Ty Gibbs.
He still looks 15 years old though.
Yeah, you know what? That's good on him. It's good to look young, feel young, and get out there and get it done. But yeah, there's no question. There's a lot of nepotism in NASCAR. We saw it with Dale Earnhardt Jr. But Dale Earnhardt Jr. had to work to get there. Senior didn't just hand him a ride. He says you're gonna have to go figure it out, come up through street stocks, late models, and do it the hard way. So and I like that Kevin Harvick's doing that with Keelan. There's more nepotism there, but Keelan's out there winning races. Shout out Kevin Harvick. He just ran Colorado National Speedway here, came runner up there to Buddy Shepard just up the road from Denver, Colorado Saturday night. Harvick's out there still getting it done, and Keelan's going to be a name we talk about quite a bit. But I do want to jump over before we put a pin in Indy and move on to Iowa, just kind of get your guys' thoughts on the situation that we saw the Xfinity race. Shout out Connor Zilic, which, by the way, probably the best rookie we've ever seen. I said that last week. I echo that again. Shout out Junior Motorsports for getting their 100th win in the Xfinity Series.
Yeah.
But some of the controversy, post race there, and obviously Richard Childress does not agree that Austin Hill should be parked. I'm curious to get your guys' opinion. My dad said he thinks Austin Hill should be parked, and strictly based on the NASCAR rulebook. Right rear hooks are not tolerable. SMT data shows, and the gloves on the camera show that Austin Hill just turned right into the right rear of the 19 of Eric Amarola. Amarola said it was the hardest wreck he's had since he broke his back in Kansas. And then obviously we saw some wrecks in the Cup side too. But should Austin Hill be parked?
Well, if the SMT data shows it is definitely intentional, which it does sound like it was, then it probably should be parked. Eric Amarola, to me, has been around. Well, we all know he's been around for a long time, but he's kind of a veteran of his own. He ran in the Xfinity series back when it was the Nationwide. He ran in the Cup series for quite a while. And then, he got bumped back down because he just wasn't pulling his weight like he should in the Cup series, but he's still out there running races. But I did want to say something to Kevin. He pulled it right out of my mouth a minute ago, man. Junior Motorsports getting its 100th win. Congratulations to Junior Motorsports. I know him and Kelly Earnhardt do a damn good job running that organization and looking at the different wins. I mean, Justin Allgaier, he's won 25% of the races for Junior Motorsports. He's won 25 races, so that's 25% of 100. And he's got like guys like William Byron's won 4 races for him. Kyle Larson's run a couple races for him. Dale Jr. even has one of his own wins for there. Hey, and Mark Martin got one with him too. So I was kind of looking at that list of those guys put together, but to look at Connor Zillage getting 6 wins, I mean, for Junior, the guy's amazing. He's definitely in there, and he's going to be going to the Cup Series and probably taking over the '99 car of Daniel Suarez. And I know that's kind of a little bit of salt in the wound for Junior, because it's hard when you bring someone up so well and you put him in good equipment, give him all the good stuff, and then unfortunately there's just not a spot open that's a good affiliate for Hendrick or for Junior to get him into the Cup Series. So to fill him in the 99 car, which is what will most likely happen, is pretty interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can echo what we've all said. I mean, Connor Zillage is just a different breed for sure. I thought it was funny that one of his win stickers like flew off mid-race and ended up on a spoiler. So hopefully that'll be on, the Lionel diecast. But yeah, I think I didn't see a video. I just went off of what you told me, Kevin, beforehand. I didn't get to see a video of this Austin Hill incident. I did see what Richard Childress said, comparing it to Austin Cindric earlier in the year. Because, I mean, Cindric kind of did the same thing twice. I mean, I didn't get to see the SMT data then. But I think NASCAR, if the proof's there, then you have to set a precedent. Eventually, you can't keep letting it slide with all this gray area. And it sucks. I mean, as close as it is to the playoffs, I don't know. It's one of those things where you got to be smarter than that. But even in the Cup Series, I've seen the whole Seabell, the last restart there, or second to the last restart there. I mean, he came down on the 38, and you can see it clear as day from the 34. Obviously, we need to see the data, but NASCAR has to get a rein on this because we cannot be injuring these guys. I mean, there was a lot of people taking pretty hard hits there in Indy. I don't know. It's just worrisome. They got to set a precedent eventually.
Well, one thing we say almost weekly is NASCAR is consistently inconsistent. And so they need to kind of straighten that out a little bit. These competition directors, Elton Sawyer, all these guys, Steve Phelps' new positions, I'm calling on all of them to, follow through. I mean, we set a rule book that right rear hooks are no good. We saw Cindric get a pass at Coda simply because his speed, I think it was like 68 miles an hour. So it was lower speeds, this and that. This was at full speed. I mean, when he hooked him, I don't know, 132, somewhere there going into the corner. It's no good. I mean, they have to come down. A $50,000 fine isn't going to cut it. If you're going to send a message to these drivers, Jeff, you got to park them.
Yeah, that was a tough lick. I mean, undoubtedly, like I said, there shouldn't be this gray area. They came into this season at the very, very beginning of the season. Okay, hey, we have a black and white rule right now. We are not going to make any gray area for this. You hook someone intentionally, you're getting parked. And that is not what's been happening.
I agree. I mean, NASCAR, they're just, like you said, consistently inconsistent. It's such an issue. I don't want to see a driver get seriously hurt or anything out of it. So I really hope that they get it together. Jumping on to Iowa, I actually rewatched. I had a little bit extra time today, so I rewatched the highlights just because, we don't have much to go off of there for the Cup Series. And I noticed that, it's a lot of wiggles and a lot of hitting the wall and tires going down. So it'll be an interesting race. I don't know. I want to hear you guys' predictions, what you think. I'm excited. I mean, I always like these new tracks to see how they go. Blaney won last year, so we'll have to see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, this is the closest track we have to it would be Richmond. If you look at kind of comparison on the stats, 3/4 mile banking is very similar. Similar shape to Richmond, but it has its own feel. It sits out in the Midwest. We mentioned 30,000 fans, which is really cool, for that racetrack. I mean, the Xfinity and the truck have been going there for a long time, but the Cup Series there, I love short track racing. It's where our sport was built on. And, I think going into this thing, I feel like Penske has to be the favorite here. Overall, the Fords are good on the short tracks. not counting out Hendrick and the Hendrick Chevys. We know William Byron and Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson are going to be in the conversation. But kind of going back to what we said last week in regards to with Watkins Glen and Daytona coming up, we have Iowa and we have Richmond. So two very similar racetracks where smoke them if you got them type stuff, Jeff, from a fantasy perspective, right? Because Watkins Glen, we know we're going to have SVG in there. Daytona, if you can make it to the checkered, God bless you. But these races are the opportunities for guys to go out and get a win.
Yeah, like I said, it's 0.87 mile track. And it's an asphalt surface, so all the turns are between 12 and 14% banking. The front stretch alone's got 10% banking. Your back stretch is the lowest with 4% banking. So it's a smaller track. It's a smaller crowd. It's going to look packed as hell. Sure, it's probably already sold out. Didn't look up the stats on that. Ryan Blaney, man, he completely dominated last year. I mean, he led 201 out of 350 laps. He barely held off William Byron and Chase Elliott to secure his first win of the season last year. So, the inaugural Cup Series event last year, and Ryan Blaney took her down. I mean, I don't know how I'm going to pick quite yet. I want to listen to you guys first and see what you got. But it was a mixed field. I mean, if you really look at the top five, we have Ryan Blaney winning it. We had William Byron taking second, Chase Elliott in P3, and old Seabell in P4, which was stoked. Surprising a little bit, not too bad, but old Ricky Stenhouse. I'm sorry, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Ricky got old P5 out of that one. I always like giving him a little bit of shit. But, it was a mixed batch. We had Fords, we had Chevys, we had Toyotas all in the top five. So I think it's going to be a fun race.
I agree. And, Brad Keselowski got a top 10 there. I feel like if we get another surprise winner, maybe Daytona, I'm looking at the 6 maybe. I was looking at him this week. I think I'm going to go sort of kind of Penske. I'm going to go Penske adjacent. I'm going to go Josh Berry. He's going to win his second race of this year. He did really well last year. He led a lot of laps there. I have a good feeling about him.
That's a good pick. I mean, he did get a P7 out of it, and Josh Berry's been doing really well this year. That's actually a really damn good pick. But I don't know. I have a toss up right now because I have a feeling Chase Elliott's gonna really pull through this time and beat out his teammate who got P2 last year, William Byron. I'd love to take Blaney, which he's a good guy. I love him, but I'm going Chase Elliott with number 9. How about you, Kev?
Yeah, I think those are really good picks, but I'm telling you who's going to get it done this week in Iowa. Sky, you're going to like this. Joey Logano is going to go out, get it done for Penske. It's going to be a good battle. I almost went Austin Cindric just because he's had a lot of momentum, and I think he is going to be in this conversation. But I think this just kind of falls in. I think about Richmond last year and what happened to Logano getting wrecked. Would have won that race. This falls right into it. 22 is getting it done.
Well, I guess it's definitely time to turn that page. Sky, anything you got to add?
No, I really like your pick, Kevin. I hope that's true. I could see Cindric too, maybe, but I don't know. Barry, he ran so well in that 4 last year, and they were going down the drain at that point. So we'll just have to see, I guess.
It's going to be interesting. Our second go here in the Cup Series at Iowa. Truck Series are off this weekend. We have the ARCA Menard Series there, and of course the NASCAR Xfinity Series. The real question is Austin Hill going to be there? I guess we'll find out from NASCAR either tomorrow or Wednesday on that. Any last remarks, Jeff, before we let her rip into Iowa out there in corn country?
Let her rip, Tater Chip.
Let her rip, Tater Chip. Well, thanks again for tuning in to Mash the Gas podcast. We appreciate all of your support. Be sure to hit that subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to us on and interact with us over on social media. Across the board at Mash the Gas. Follow NASCAR Sky over there at NASCAR Sky. We're headed to Iowa. Only 4 races to go. It's getting down to the nitty gritties. 3 spots remain. Who's pointing their way in? Who's going to win it? We'll see soon. But we'll see you next Monday night to break it all down. And until then, y'all,
Mash the Gas.